Ugly Duckling by Hans Christian Andersen. On a warm summer day, in the heart of the countryside, a mother duck sat patiently on her nest. She had been waiting for her eggs to hatch, and finally, one by one, they began to crack open. Out came several bright, fluffy yellow ducklings, peeping and stumbling about, their tiny wings flapping with excitement. The mother duck quacked happily, but then she noticed that one egg, the largest of them all, had yet to hatch. Curious and slightly worried, she waited. Finally, after some time, the shell cracked and out tumbled a large grey duckling. Unlike his siblings, he was not bright yellow, but grey like ashes. Also, his head was bigger than the others. The duckling tumbled out of his egg, and they saw that he was chubby, clumsy, and stodgy. The other ducklings stared at him, whispering among themselves, and even the mother duck, though kind-hearted, was puzzled. "You are different from the others," she murmured, "but you will grow strong like them." The days passed, and the ducklings followed their mother to the pond. The ugly duckling, though clumsy, swam just as well as the others. However, the teasing from his siblings began almost immediately. "You are so big and ugly," they quacked. "You don't look like us at all." Even the other animals at the farmyard mocked him. The chickens pecked at him, the geese hissed, and the farm cat eyed him with suspicion. His own brothers and sisters refused to play with him, and even his mother, though she defended him at first, sighed and said, "I wish you were more like the others." The ugly duckling felt miserable. He did not understand why he was different, but he could not change how he looked. As the days went by, the bullying grew worse. The other birds bit and chased him, and even the farmers' children laughed at his strange appearance. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, the ugly duckling ran away. He flew over the fence of the farmyard and into the wild. He wandered alone, finding refuge in the reeds by a large pond. There he met a group of wild ducks. "Oh, can I stay with you?" he asked timidly. The wild ducks looked him over. "You are very ugly," one said, "but as long as you do not marry into our family, you may stay." The ugly duckling stayed in the marsh for a time, but soon hunters arrived with their dogs. He watched in terror as the hunters shot down the ducks and the dogs sniffed through the reeds. He cowered, waiting for the worst, but miraculously they ignored him. He was too small and too insignificant for them to notice. Shivering, he ran away again, deeper into the countryside. As autumn came, the leaves turned golden and the air grew colder. One evening, he saw a flock of large, beautiful birds flying high above him. They were swans, their long necks elegant, their feathers gleaming white. He had never seen anything so magnificent. Something stirred deep in his heart, a strange longing he did not understand. As winter came, life grew harder. He had nowhere warm to stay, and the pond where he hid began to freeze. One day, unable to move in the ice, he collapsed. A kind farmer found him and took him home. The farmer's children warmed him by the fire, and for a short time he knew comfort. But when the children tried to play with him, he became frightened. He thought they would hurt him, so he fluttered and fled out the door, back into the cold. Winter was harsh, and the ugly duckling barely survived. He hid wherever he could, shivering and hungry. But at last, spring arrived, melting the ice and bringing warmth back to the land. One morning, he stretched his wings, now stronger than before, and to his surprise, he lifted off the ground. He could fly! He soared through the sky, following a river until he reached a beautiful garden. There on the water swam 3 breathtakingly beautiful birds, the same kind he had seen in autumn. They were swans. He felt a deep sadness. "They are so beautiful," he thought. If only I could be like them. But I am just an ugly duckling. They will surely reject me. Still, something urged him forward. He glided onto the water and swam toward them, bowing his head, ready for them to drive him away. But to his surprise, the swans did not chase him. Instead, they nodded at him kindly. Confused, he looked down at his reflection in the water, and what he saw made him gasp. Gone was the awkward grey duckling. Instead, he saw a strong, graceful swan with gleaming white feathers. He was one of them. He had never been an ugly duckling. He had been a swan all along. A family passing by saw him and marvelled. "Look at that young swan," they said. "He is the most beautiful of them all." For the first time in his life, the ugly duckling, or rather the young swan, felt truly happy. The hardships of his past faded away, replaced by a deep joy. He spread his wings, lifted his head high, and joined his new family. He had found where he truly belonged. And so the once lonely bird who had been mocked and rejected became admired and loved. He was no longer the ugly duckling, but a beautiful swan, soaring freely under the vast, open sky. Thank you for listening, and I hoped you liked this story. If you enjoyed it, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I have plenty more fairy tales for you.